This video is going to show you solo flawless grasp of Avarice on a Titan. First, I just want to say the run and skip to the timestamps you have available to you. Other than that, I can show you what stuff to bring for this dungeon on a Titan. So the subclasses that I end up using Sentinel top tree, bubble, Sunbreaker bottom tree at one point, just for one encounter, one or two, and then Striker Titan core of the missile for one of the encounters, but mainly it's Sentinel, right? The exotics that we're using will be Symphoceps, Lion Rampants, and we'll also swap to a Helm of Same Fountain because there's no equipment locked on these. So we do all those swaps, and they vary depending on what we're doing, there'll be more information in the run. This is just a quick overview, that's all it is. Our build is a Protective Light build, which is on the boots. So we've got Protective Light, Particle Deconstruction on the class item. We've got Melee Wellmaker, Elemental Charge, so this means when you get a charge melee kill, you get a Elemental Well. That gives you Charge of Light, thus gives you Protective Light. Very good on a Titan, and you'll see why. Armor Finders on the helmet, Scavengers on the boots. These change depending on what weapons we've got on. Arc Damage Resistance, Concussive Dampener on the chest plate, but I do switch at some point to Linear Fusion Reserves, and I'll go into why. But for the most part, that's what my resistance is. For weapon-wise, for our kinetic slot, I use the Heritage Slug Shotgun. A good shotgun's really good for some of the fights. If you don't have that one, I understand, then there's other shotguns like the new Wastelander M5 is an amazing shotgun. If you've got a good roll on it, I haven't yet, but if you have, use that. Anything you want really, anything kinetic wise, but something close quarters. I'm using the Exotic Fusion Rifle Jotunn and Rage's Regret, which is a heavy linear with boss spec and vorpal weapon. That's what I use for one of the bosses, but I use a better build than that. I was just testing this damage. I ended up using the Coordinate Fusion with vorpal boss spec, and then Sleeper Simulant, which Sleeper Simulant got a 16% damage buff, and it's now sort of the king, definitely of linears, I think. So I end up using that and then swapping to a kinetic grey launcher. So any kinetic grey launcher you want a blind nade one, you can use it. I was just testing this one out because it's new. Those are the things I brought to the dungeon for the Titan. So on with the run. So as we done the other day, the Warlock run, we'll start with the Titan. So is it more difficult on a Titan as opposed to the Warlock? For me, and the way I play Titan, I found the Titan a lot easier. Well, I mean, the Warlock's fine as well. The Warlock's not too bad once you know what you're doing, once you've learned the dungeon. But on a Titan, because you're you're above power, you can really use some melee builds to help you flow through this dungeon really easy. We're starting with bottom tree Sunbreaker, as you see, because we have to kill the adds in the loot cave, of course, right? And it just lends itself well to easily kill them. I don't even need to use a super on many weapons, just use one nade. They sit in my sunspot and I can get all the kills really easy. This first crystal that you deposit all the Burn My Riches, you need 50 for this, if you didn't know, because there's different stacks. I went through all this in my Warlock video, so I'm going to repeat a couple of things that I did from the Warlock. You might not have watched the Warlock one and you're waiting for the Titan one, right? But if you've watched the Warlock one, just bear in mind I might repeat things, right? But the general mechanic, of course, is that you need to pick up the Burn by Riches, which they're engrams. Enemies drop these. It's a debuff, but you need to deposit them within the 30-second timer into the crystal by just standing next to it. However, the timer refreshes for each Burn by Riches that you pick up. If the timer reaches 0, you die. That is the basics of that mechanic. This is showing you how the mechanics work. The opening encounters give you a taste of the mechanics, and then when you get to the boss fights, it then includes those mechanics, because that's just the basics. They do that in raids, anything. They've always done that in Destiny. They teach you the basic mechanics, as I said, initially, and then it starts to go more advanced. You include a boss with that, you include adds, you include a bit of combat sequence to it, and then there you've got your dungeon. So you saw I skipped that section. You take out the Streaker and then just run past all the adds. It's pretty simple to do that. You could use a Roman super and get the damage resistance to run past them if you really want to. Just make sure you don't die, of course, because this is going to be focused on flawless. if you don't know the routing, you're going to have to watch this part a lot of times because it takes a bit of time to memorize all the buttons that you need to press. Obviously, there's a lot of fake traps. You press the wrong button, that's a death. Like right here, this is a death if you press it. Obviously, you don't. You go underneath, and then you activate that one. That's the one that opens the real door in the other room. We've got lion rampants on as well. We have this on because there's jumping, right, and it makes the whole maze thing a lot easier. We're not needing to sort of do DPS or things like that. There's not much ad clear. It's just jumping around, so it pays to have these on, and it makes you make jumps easier without having to use a sword. I mean, I could have started it with a sword, you know, and got away with it, but I really couldn't be bothered putting a sword on to, you know, and swap at this time. So I was fine with just using what I used. So you can see you can make those jumps really easy on a Titan. A hunter struggles. You really want stompies on, but a sword you can make it just with a sword, but just put stompies on. You may as well, okay? If you're trying to do that jump on a hunter, because obviously you need to flip way more switches to get to that back section, but you can just entirely skip that. Warlock can easily do it, as you saw on my Warlock run, and a Titan can as well. We're just skipping all these ads. We have no intention of killing them. We're just flipping the levers. Obviously, if you're less confident than me, you're going to kill those ads, right? Obviously, this room, it's again levers, but there's numbers 1 to 4. I would recommend killing the Solar Wizards. They are a bit of a time waste, but if you don't kill them, they can provide a problem. They can blind you and suppress you with their smoke move, whatever it is. That will stop you from jumping. If you fall down below, that's a death. Jotunn will one-shot them. Now, as I said, we're using the Jotunn. Why am I using the Jotunn and not just Sleeper? Well, the reason is because I was wanting to test damage. I was just wanting to see how good Jotunn and a heavy linear would work in terms of damage. And they've got a Vorpal weapon. I understand that. Mine's got Vorpal on it. My Rage Regret. But it's still good. Vorpal's still good on heavies, right? It's not going to be the worst perk or something like that. But they also got a buff linears. Legendary linears got a 10% buff. So it's kind of like outweighing itself a little bit. So even though you lose a bit from Vorpal, you gain that blanket buff. So a Vorpal linear is still the way to go. Especially if you can get a triple tap Vorpal Rage Regret, which I don't have. Mine was Clown Cartridge Vorpal, which is the next best thing. Really good because you can get 8 in the mag sometimes. So we'll overclock the unit. This is the next mechanic with the Scorch Cannon. I'm sure you'll know. You just need to overclock the fallen machines. You can do that multiple ways, either 4 or 5 shots, single shots, or a fully charged shot. A fully charged shot doesn't mean... What it means is you hold it down and you wait for 2 tings, right, to the point where it's fully max charge. And as long as that shot's in the center of that machine, it will fully overclock it in one go. It's important that you know that more for when you get to the boss fight, but you may as well practice it now. Because right now it's low risk, but when we get to the final boss, it's not so much low risk. It's a bit higher risk then. So we'll switch our build. We'll go into top tree Sentinel, bubble. We'll keep Jotunn on. I could have went Sleep. Honestly, I would, looking back at it, I would just, to recommend somebody, just go Sleeper Simulant, the Coordinate Fusion, the solar one I mentioned earlier. Just use that. It's better DPS than what I was using here. And Sleeper Simulant has more forgiving body shot damage, as opposed to the legendaries, which you're going to miss a crit. It's just going to happen with this Ogre, just with the randomness of when he can enrage and things like that. But anyways, this fight, as you'll know, will incorporate the 2 mechanics, the Scorch Cannon and the Crystal. There's 4 acolytes at the start of this fight. I don't know why. It's kind of worthless because you only need 20 to bank. But I would recommend just killing them and get them out of your way, because they're just going to nade you to death when you try and do DPS, and you don't want that. Okay, you definitely don't want that. The doors are the same each time, so it always goes left, right. Right is always your last door, providing that you're picking up enough motes. Now I left the Scorch Cannon guy in this encounter alive. Why did I do that? Well, because I've already got one. I brought it from the previous encounter. Saves a little bit of time, you see. It's really good, that. And not only that, it's really good this because the Ogre will actually kill the Vandal by the time you're done with what you're doing. And you'll have another Scorch Cannon for the next phase. So it's really good. Any room that you go into, I would recommend you bubble it. I don't always, it just depends on how I feel. But the Symphoceps, this is where the exotic gauntlets, the Symphoceps comes in. It one-shots any ad when you have the buff, which is pretty much 90% uptime on it. You just need to be surrounded by enemies. So that's the basis of this setup, is controlling the ads via our melee. We're barely using ammo. Shotgun ammo for the knights, really handy, you know, because you can't outright one-shot those. So it is handy just shotgunning them, or even Jotunn. And you have a free license to do that, because you're only going to be using one Jotunn shot on the boss to get particle deconstruction going, and then the rest of it's heavy. So you can literally spam everything you want on these ads. Okay, there's obviously 2 knights each phase. The knights are the sort of the key to take out, of course. This knight was sort of awkward. He was in my bubble. That's fine though. You got to be quick at this, because they're burned by riches. The riches, they have a cooldown timer, so they just disappear. So it'd be kind of bad if you cleared the full room and you didn't pick up the 10 riches, which, as I said, you need 20. We've already banked more than 10. You can get 14 max per room, right? So now we're going for damage. Now what I'm doing here is killing the Thrall just as I start damage. That means I won't get any Thrall for DPS. I'll talk more about that on the next phase. But the phase has begun, you'll know, because you'll get the audio cue and the text at the bottom. We get the Jotunn first, which does not give you max stacks. I think it gives you 4 stacks rather than 5. It's not quite as good as maybe Telesto and things. So, but Jotunn's really good. It's got a lot of utility. Now we're just going to use our Rage Regret. I also swapped to Helm of Saint 14 for the Overshield. So you peek in and out of your bubble and you keep getting Overshield. Without it, you will really struggle to do DBS, and this Ogre will beam you down. You can run Void Damage Resistance. I didn't bother with it. I didn't bother switching chest plates and all that stuff. I was fine doing it, because I've done the whole dungeon with no resistance, just to see what it's like with resistance and none. And on this setup, it's not too bad. Like, if you don't run the right resistances, it's fine. Okay, especially if you've got Protective Light going, you've got a good uptime on that, because you're always meleeing enemies. So you're always going to get like your Protective Light going. So you've got that, and you're over leveled for Legend. You know, it's not like it's Master. So you know, you don't have to, you know, match the resistances. Going for our next set of modes. So, talking about the Thrall, they spawn up, they're on a timer, right? But you can get an unfortunate timer where, say for example, it's 40 seconds. I'm just making it up. Say for example, you get a spawn of Thrall that's 40 seconds. You don't take any of them out, you will still get another spawn of Thrall, even though there's already Thrall on the map. So that's key to know. So it's kind of the best thing to do with that is kill the spawn of Thrall as the spawning in type thing before DPS, because they really do ruin your damage. Now, Helm of Saint 14 will blind them in your bubble, but they can get on top of you, flinch you, and it's just a pain. So the best thing to do is the timing, right? So I'm on the second door now, which is obviously going to be DPS after this. So you obviously want to come in here, kill all your enemies, and then you need to make your swap. Before you go out there, you need to do your swaps. Okay, this is probably the hardest thing at times, getting the swaps in. So you get all your 10. You will get your super back, of course, when you get 10 motes. That's the whole reason why we can pop bubbles and things like that. That's obviously another mechanic to it. We've got 12 riches, which reset the timer. All the Thrall are on the Fallen. So we didn't kill them all though, only some of them. There was some left alive. We'll go for our burn my riches. the boss is aggroed on the enemies, he isn't popping his shield, this happens. So I was well aware that was going to happen. That's why I didn't pop the bubble straight away. This is phase 2 damage. It's not as good as the first phase because I didn't have my reload. Actually, it's not bad, to be honest. It's not bad overall for this, but Sleeper definitely does more damage. It does about 133k per shot, whereas my Rage Regret was hitting for like 92 with max stacks of Particle. So obviously Sleeper is the clear winner. I mean, he's free phaseable on this. You can actually solo 2 phasing with Sleeper. I've actually done that on a previous run. So as I said, if you just want to go the old Sleeper coordinate loadout, you can. I end up doing that loadout for comparison anyways on the final boss. But Jotunn shines for sections like this when you need a Vandal, stuff like that. This is our spawn of Thrall I was on about. I was keeping an eye on my radar, saw they were coming. Let's take them out quickly with the melee. That's what's so good about the build. Obviously always swap back to Symphos after you've done your damage, because you're in big trouble if you don't. You won't be one-shot nads, so that can be a problem. Obviously you have to overclock the machine, the fall machine, the same as what we've done earlier. I wouldn't recommend multiple firing. See, the idea is, what's speeding it up a little bit is, I kill some of the ads and then pick the cannon back up. There's more shots. So I can use one cannon for 2 rooms rather than 2 cannons for, 1 room each. Rather than do that, kill a couple of ads, pick up the cannon, because the cannon will despawn. It's on a timer, right? It will despawn, but if you pick it up in time, it won't. That's why you see I've kept out of the cannon for quite a long time. And you can still melee all the ads, one-shot them while you're holding the cannon. You'll see I've done that quite a lot. The Ogre's beaming, you just take your time with him. Obviously Void Resistance will help out massively. You can see he's doing hefty damage to me, so... But again, it's map rotation, it's where you stand, right? How do you stand? Where's the best cover? Knowing all that information means you can sort of avoid all these fire anyways. Okay, we were struggling for heavy, I remember, but we've... See, what it is, we need a couple of bricks on the floor for after this fight. Especially the way I do the next encounter, the Sparrow section. It makes it real simple, and I get through... I've done tests on it, I get through 9 times out of 10 I'll get through. Unless I get really bad RNG or it's my own fault. But yeah, that's why I was just saying we wanted some heavy, at least 1 brick, at the very minimum on the floor. So if you can manage doing that, which on this loadout you can. Because Jotunn's doing a bit of damage and you're not going to use 19 shots of, there's just not enough time to spam, all that heavy. We'll make our swap before we go outside, always. 13, we're on 13. The time will refresh off this Acolyte. That's so important, because obviously if you didn't have another Acolyte to kill, by the time you went into these Thrall, your Burn My Riches would run out and you die. I killed a lot of Thrall there, and I can just see there's another spawn coming in. But that's fine, we're going to kill them as we're losing our buff, because here's the thing. They'll sit in a lot of your damage that you do. Like so. The main thing is that they're all down for DBS. If they're down for DBS, that's great. That's huge. It just means you're not getting staggered and things like that. So now we'll finish off the boss. Master the strafe on the Titan. You've really got to strafe. It's not like on well. You can see he's absolutely melting us. But the key is getting that stagger damage, right? Once you get in the crit, you can see the crits stagger him, stops him from beaming you. A body shot won't. And that was the Ogre fight. Pretty simple for that. Right, now we switch to Galahorn, my usual strat. I mean, I'm just playing it super safe. You don't really need... Well, actually, it will help people out a lot, the Galahorn thing, because it just means you can wipe ads, refresh your Sparrow, because refreshing your Sparrow is a big deal. You get full energy for side boosting and things like that every time you refresh. If your Sparrow's one shot, you need to refresh your Sparrow so you get full HP back on your Sparrow. So being able to just jump up your Sparrow, rocket the ads, then get a fresh Sparrow and have the time to do that helps the Sparrow section massively. You just need to know where all the switches are. You don't get every switch. 2 galley rockets is enough for you. You just need 1 galley rocket for B, 1 for C. If you do that, you find it real easy. As I said, I'm not saying you must have galley. I'm just saying it makes it real easy if you do. So we'll activate. We've got the Age of Triumph Sparrow on, so enemies are less aggressive to us while we have it on. It's the same as the Always On Time exotic Sparrow, just it's not quite as fast, but it's the next best thing to it. Real good Sparrow. If you have it, use it. Check your collections. It's Void Streak, I think they call it. Just check if you've got it. I'm not sure what season it's from, but it's really good, this Sparrow. So on B, we get the left switch. Then we jump off Sparrow. This is so key because these dregs will melt your Sparrow. Instead of doing that, just galley them. You look at the time on B, I have plenty of time. Also, Sparrow right past the capture point. Through it, you'll get 100% when you do that. There's a switch there. With 10 seconds on C, we'll get another 5 off this switch right here. It's great. We'll jump off behind this rock. Galley these 3 dregs again. As I said, you just needed the 2. And then we'll ready ourselves for C. You need to start speeding your Sparrow before you get to C, right, to get the momentum, because the timing's everything. Now I'm going to go top. When you go for this portal, you need to anchor your Sparrow back to make the jump, not forward. Nosedive it up, not down. There's another switch you just saw I hit. I can use galley again. I didn't really need to, but I did. And that's done. That's the Sparrow section done easy. As I said, I've tested it. I challenged myself to sort of do it 10 times in a row on this sort of setup. And as I said, I've done it like 9 times, and there was 1 time I failed due to my own thing. So it's going to work most of the time, especially if you know the extra little tips like sparrowing through the capture points, not waiting. You know, using your side layer when adds a spamming arc at you. You need to dodge their attacks. So this is the Fallen Shield encounter. So this is where the build completely changes. Because there's no DPS required. I'm sure you'll know. It's just an ad clear encounter and mechanic heavy. Some people find it boring. I like it because it's themed. It's so well themed to the, you know, it's like an adventure dungeon pirate type thing, and this just shows you that, like the surrounding. My only complaint is there maybe should have been some desert that you could sort of, or sorry, like a beach that you could sort of stand on, and not all the water should be an instant wipe. You know, that's my only thing with it. We're changing all our mods. We're going passive guard, sword ammo finders, sword scavenger, Lion Rampants, Weed Thundercrash Super. I know I haven't got the Curious of Fallen Star, and you're going to think, well, why hasn't he got that on? Well, because you don't need that. Why are we using this Super? Well, we're using it for mobility, for getting to islands. Okay, that's so useful to you on this. You know, obviously you've got cannons that navigate you, but you can speed things up a little bit by just using a Super to get to another island. So we'll take the first cannon. I'm looking for the servitor. So you need to look where the first shielded servitor is. There's RNG where the first shielded servitor is. It's always top somewhere. It's either waterfalls, top left, or top right. It's one of those. It's never bottom though. I've never seen bottom yet. The idea is you do the bottom ones first, top ones first, sorry, then you finish up on an island at the very bottom, because then at the exit you're close to it. So I like to jump in the middle because it's a good starting ground. You can make this jump real easy, and then this is a good way of getting up to top. I move that cannon once, and just know that by experience. I just need to move it once. I'll charge the cannon, go over to the teleporter, and then this is our top platforms. Now we don't need to use any cannons, we're good. You don't need to be stingy with cannons, like taking them to the next island, you know, being really overprotective, because there's vandals everywhere, okay? This is where Lion Rampants comes in. I equipped my sword just to make sure I would make it. If I didn't, I could sword swipe for the extra distance. But we've got waterfall. So, we can start off killing the ads. So, if you didn't know, 20 stacks is all you need. Right, so they all have different values. So the Ogre fight was 20, this is 20. The opening encounter was 50, and the final boss is different to those as well. The passive guard will really help out here with Lament. You're just sorting all the enemies, essentially. It's good to do that because while you're sorting enemies, you can pick up all the riches while you're doing it. Right? There's no need to be using any sort. You didn't even have to use Lament. You could use any sort of sword that you would wish. Just keep sorting the enemies. Get for our 20 buff. You will also get our captains. They're worth more for riches, so it's worth taking them out, of course. What your goal, your best goal is for this though, is try and kill enough enemies that you get your 20 stacks, but not to the point where you kill all the enemies, because if you kill them all, you get another wave. Like a full new wave. So they can get in the way, to be honest, because once you're done with that, that obviously breaks the Void Service Shield. And then what you're going to have is the bomb. But the thing is, there'll be ads shooting you in the back while you're hitting the bomb. That's why I equipped my sword, just in case. I mean, you've got a good timer on the bomb. It's 1:30 to start. So, it's not a problem if you just kill them all and then tend to the bomb. But if you get the burn by riches by accident, you need to deposit that. Because it's so easy to be sidetracked. You've got a lot of things to think about, especially if it's new to you. Is the cannon right? Is the bomb not going to fall off the map? Is it in the right location? Have I got a cannon? Is the cannon guy killed? You know, and while all that's going on, you could have riches by accident and then die and wipe to it. So just pay attention to your riches if you've got that buffer now. So the servitor was above us, so we use a Thundercrash server to get up there quickly. So it was on the island to our right, which was really ideal. So this is a good rotation. It's good. Nearly 20 stacks now. We're just looking to see how much we've got left on the floor. It's about 20 there on the floor, so we're fine. We did kill all the ads though, so we'll end up getting a fresh wave, like a full wave of ads. That's the only thing you don't want to do. Ideally, you should be 2 dregs left, 2 or 3 dregs left. So basically, it's like 23 ads. You only need 20 of them. It's something like that. With these bombs, if you do happen to... I've tested this all the stuff with the bombs, because on my other run I was unsure, because day 1 of this I had a bomb fly off the map and I got error coded while continuing with the activity. I went right the way throughout it to the final phase and I got error coded, and I thought, well, oh, is that because of the bomb fell off the map? Because here's the thing, if the timer runs out, obviously it doesn't blow up, it just disappears, and then another servitor will spawn in. But what I was thinking is, if you knock it off the map and the timer doesn't expire, what happens? The fight just continues. The servitor will pop up on another island and you'll still get 4 phases done. So you don't need to worry that way. If the bomb does fly off the map, then just go to the next island where you see the servitor. We'll use another servitor to get to this island here rather than the cannon. It's all the top ones. This is really good. This is the 3rd bomb that we're on, and then the final bomb is always usually down below on the start island. A lot of people have been asking me if they think that the debate between whether Prophecy is more difficult than this, or if this is more difficult than Prophecy. The biggest thing is that this has Master difficulty, so automatically this dungeon at Master is going to be harder than Prophecy, because there's champions. Automatically, in my opinion, straight away. But if we're comparing Legend, Grasp and Prophecy, you know, because obviously Prophecy doesn't have a Master difficulty, if you just compare the 2 modes, a lot of people are saying that Prophecy is way harder than this. I don't see it that way. I think, especially at the final boss fight, with the amount of HP that the boss has, because don't forget we're all using particle deconstruction. When particle deconstruction goes, that boss is even tankier. Now there might be a new mod by then in Witch Queen, I don't know. But say there isn't. Say you have to use a standard loadout, like try using Galahorn. You'll struggle to solo 3 phase the fight with anything other than a linear fusion. So this boss is really tanky. I haven't found any weapons like on the final boss that he's weak to. Maybe like Warcliffe Coil, maybe he is. Like some bosses are, but no, not so much. So for that sheer factor alone, like in Prophecy you get a minute of DPS. Okay, in this dungeon I've actually looked and counted all the seconds, right? So the first Ogre boss gets exactly 30 seconds of DPS. I have tested solo 2 phase, which you can. You can even solo 1 phase with the military Sunbreaker, so the damage requirements on the Ogre boss isn't that high, and you're getting to 30 seconds. Whereas the final boss is slightly less than 30, so 28, 27, and obviously he's really tanky. So for that fact alone, in Prophecy you can make so much stuff work because it's a minute of damage, and you get teleported to a different arena. There is snipers to take, I understand that, right? But I think overall, with the tight damage that you need to do for the final boss, people are going to struggle with the final boss on this one more than Prophecy, because if someone's done 5 phases, which I have heard people do 5 phases on the final boss and still do it, that's a lot, because for each phase you need 60 riches. Okay, that's a lot of riches they've just went through to get that fight done. Okay, you're looking at a 40-minute boss fight at that. Prophecy's nowhere near that. You know, you can get Prophecy done in 10-15 minutes reliably. That's with meta weapons as well, right? Which I understand, but I think overall, maybe Prophecy's harder because the first boss fight people struggle with, the cube room people struggle with, whereas in this one, once you learn it, it's not much of a problem to you. The biggest thing will be the Sparrow section for people, which that's why I've given advice on the Galahorn using that. I'm not messing about when I say that. It actually does work if you do it like that. Whereas Prophecy doesn't have a high demand on the jumping sections or the Sparrow section. There's not a high risk you're going to die on. On this one, there is. You're timed. So I'm torn between which one. Probably Prophecy was harder. Like if we compare the day 1 to day 1, Prophecy day 1 was harder because you had to level up. So not only did you need to level up to the cap, wherever it was, right? We had levels to climb. This dungeon we haven't had to do any power level climbing to get to power, then do it. And that's what makes the Prophecy week 1 completion harder than this one, in my eyes, just because of that. Because you had to go through all the leveling and stuff. So now we're doing all our loadout switches. We're at the final boss. I'm going Sleeper Simulant, the Coordinate Fusion that I've been banging on about. I'll swap all of my mods out because I changed them all for that last fight. Take off Lion Rampants, we don't need it anymore. Don't pay attention to my stats and start saying, oh, your recovery's too high. It doesn't matter, I've just been using Lion Rampants just for an encounter that just requires mobility. That's not my actual build. That's just for me to get round on that encounter. This is what my build is, as you can see, with the Synthoceps and then swap them to Helmet Same 14 when we need for damage. Now we switch to the Kinetic Grain Launcher. If you want to use a Blinding Nade one, you can. I could have done. I was just testing this weapon out because it's new. So as the boss spawns in, the 2 VIP targets will spawn in. So what I like to do is use a super. You will get the Synthoceps buff, Biotic Enhancements, as you can see, and you can pretty much melt both targets. Like I got the sniper. The main thing is if you can get that sniper down with your super, then that's huge. It saves you a lot of work because the sniper's actually quite tanky. The Marauder's not much of a pain because he just stays in middle, whereas the sniper's always a pain to you. If you're always fighting on the left and right hand side, or even on the beach, That sniper's a constant threat. He can see you anywhere, so you need to take out that sniper. This is your place to work. Back of the map. This is where you stand from, right? This is where you do a lot of your work. If you're in big trouble, this is where you come. Right, back here. Because the boss can't hit you from here. You're safe from the boss. The ads, the dregs can hit you left and right. The boss can throw his blinding grenade at you. Like quite often actually. So that's the only threat from the boss. But other than that, you're pretty safe from here, to be honest. Okay? Do your tower and barricades anytime you're in real trouble. But for the most part, you need, as I said, you need to take out these 2 VIPs. So I'm using the Scorch Cannon to save on a bit of damage. To save on ammo, should I say. Just so I don't need to farm much ammo up for the actual first phase of damage. Because what I've found in this boss fight is you've got to do a lot of ad farming to really get the ammo that you need. This is a free phase. You can almost solo 2 phase. I tested the solo 2 phase this morning on a Titan at the very least. It's very, very close. It's like you've got to be frame perfect to sort of do it. He has 4.5 million HP by looks, and I done 4.383 or something with all critical hit shots, max particle deconstruction shots, hit, sleeper simulant, coordinate, and it was so close. But you've got to be frame perfect on it, and people aren't going to be frame perfect, and every crit must hit, and you must get bounce damage. This boss suffers from bounce ricochet shots of sleeper, right? Because there's multiple places to stand to do damage, but your best bet is standing in middle, because he will stand next to the cabin. The sleeper shot will give you, the ricochet shot will give you an extra 8k per shot. So base max particle deconstruction on a sleeper times 5 with weapons of light will be 125k, right? But if you do the middle strat and you have the ricochet shot of sleeper, you get 133k. Now I know you could go like Font of Might and all this stuff, and you know even get more, but obviously we're on Sentinel, so you know you've got to utilize. If you're going to do it with sleeper, then you need to do Sunbreaker. And then that's the problem because you haven't got bubble. So, but it's a very comfortable free phase, providing that you farm the ammo up. Don't rush it. So obviously for the first phase of damage, don't use any sleeper, and you'll have plenty of ammo. Obviously, I would also recommend take off your concussive dampener, which I have on, and put linear fusion reserves on, just to give you that extra bit of damage, because it'll give you. You know, more sleeper, which sleeper is, you know, your main damage on this boss. So we're supering when we hand in our riches. We're not handing in 60, so it takes 60 to get the damage phase. What I like to do is hand in 50 generally, and then do a 10 stack at the end. But I do a bubble when I hand in the 50, because I'll get my bubble back when I hand in 10. When I pick up 10 riches, I get my bubble back for damage. So you're safe to do a bubble in middle for protection, because it takes a while to get rid of 50 stacks, right? And then on the next phase you do 10. Now I've also done some digging with the spawns. So the dregs that hang out on the left and right and on the beach, what happens with that? Well, they are their own independent spawn by looks. If you leave one ad up alive on that side, another spawn won't happen until you kill that last dreg. But that's independent to the left side and independent to the beach side. So you could have 5 dregs up in the middle, and they'll just stay there. If you merely, you know, a couple, there's one left, then you'll just be one on the beach, for example. You can use this to your advantage, and you'll see that I'll end up doing that for damage. People don't like to do damage in middle because you get flinched by enemies. You can sort of get round that by killing all the ads on the side you were last at. Okay. So there's no ads up on the other side because I've cleared them all. I'll hand in my 10 riches, and then what we're going to do is fight on the side I cleared the ads at. Right, on the right hand side. Now, what I done here wrong is I forgot to switch my exotic to Elmer Saint. So my DPS is severely impacted because of it, because I can't push. So you can see, at least it's a good comparison to show you, if you don't put Elmer Saint 14 on, you struggle to do damage because you're not getting the overshield. So I ended up losing a bit of damage. It's still 3-phase territory, and I'll make up for it for the 2nd and 3rd phase easily, because you can do way more damage than what I just done there. If you're perfect, you can do almost half damage to him, as I was saying earlier. Now it's obviously the next phase. There's the sniper and the marauders back up. They've spawned back up, so they need to be taken care of. You can't leave them up because of our strat. We do damage in mid. So what I suggest doing is build up some super energy first. Anytime you get an opportunity to get a scorch cannon, obviously you can go for that. If you clear out one side of ads, obviously you can with Sympaceps. Really easy for ad control, because you're just getting health regen off charged or uncharged melees. That's why it's so good. And you can one-shot them all, so you can just go in melee mode and kill all the enemies down, and it's super safe. There's the respawn. So they've respawned because I took them all out. Get a cannon. As you can see, the sniper's hitting me there quite a bit, which is why you need to take out that sniper. A good strat is standing up on this box. You can just hit him. I mean, if you want to save on ammo, which you won't have a lot of ammo anyways, because you'll have spammed a lot on the boss, use your scorch cannon, double charge it maximum. You'll hit 44,000 damage on these snipers, and that's quite a bit. You know, you'll kill him in less than 10 shots for sure with the max charge shots, and he's not too hard to hit the sniper. He can't really snipe you as well up there, so it's really handy that way. Once you run out of the Scorch Cannon ammo, that's when the Vandal will load in with a fresh cannon. It's important to know that, because if you're going to DPS phase and you drop the cannon too soon and the cannon despawns, a Vandal will spawn up while you're doing damage, therefore chance to stagger you. So to avoid that, don't drop the cannon until DPS starts, and make sure it's got at least one shot left in it. That way you won't get a Vandal spawn up during DPS, because that will throw you off for sure, because he'll come right in middle, melee you and things while you're trying to do damage. It's just a pain. Now we're finding up some more ammo and super. I'm very close to my super. I end up using it on the Marauder, because obviously we're going to get it back. This is where I was wanting to sort of put on linear reserves, because I've been testing out damage earlier. I'd found out it's actually best to run double linear reserves with 16 sleeper shots, because you get 13 base with one, you know, you get an extra, but with two you get 16, because you can essentially just do all shots, your 4 mags. Because 4 mags will be in 30 seconds or 20 or 26 seconds, but you need a second or two to apply the coordinate fusion. So the idea is, if you want to do maximum damage on this setup, you'd run double reserves. You wouldn't have a resistance, which would make it a little bit harder, but you have got protective light, you know, and you can just take ads from a distance. It's fine. And then you just, as I say, apply the 1 coordinate shot, and then it would be 16 sleeper shots. You can get it just in the allotted time that you have. Starting to get more heavy now. Also, I'm running double special, of course. I didn't run any primary, which you'll find there's an increased chance of heavy ammo when you do that. There's no need for a primary in this dungeon. Which is a shame in a sense, because I like using primary. I like using them, but it's just better for heavy. You just get more chances at heavy bricks. So it's kind of weird because white ammo doesn't exist, so why is that still a thing? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, why is there an increased chance at heavy because I'm running double special heavy? You know? It's like the old rules still apply when you used to have white bricks, but there's no white bricks. Like, for the chance of heavy. Like, just run Gambit and then come back to me and you'll see. If you run Gambit, double special with 1k voices, you'll get 1k voice the whole game. Ammo constant. You run primary special heavy, barely any heavy. So I'm not sure why that's a thing. Now here we messed up. So you can see my debuff timer going to 6 seconds. So what happened with that? Well, you need to keep an eye on it because obviously there's the 30-second riches time, right? If I'm too slow at getting the next lot of riches, or I miss my cannon shot on the fallen unit, because it's easy to do that. Sometimes it's not so clear if you've hit it or not. Sometimes you come up with an immune number, which means you've definitely hit it. But sometimes it's unclear. So if you've missed the shot, the time is ticking down. Because that's, if you're going for the high risk strat of 50 riches to 10, 50 riches is quite a lot. So you've got to be keeping an eye on that timer. So you're not on ad clear at all. You shouldn't be doing any ad clear. But if you do get to the point where you're less than 10 seconds and you haven't got any riches to pick up, you need to go middle no matter what, because you'll wipe if you don't. Every time you do the riches run, I recommend you do it on the left or right hand side. Don't do it beach side. There's no point to be doing beach side really, unless it's easy to you and there's no ads there. But generally just do left and right, because you don't have enough time to get all 30 engrams drop, 10 per side. You have enough time to get 20. You can't, sometimes I've had 22, 23, but that's maximum. You're never going to get 30. It's very difficult to do so. So it's best just doing a side and then go to beach, because beach is so easy. All the engrams drop in one place, but it's obviously best to do that after you've done a side. So that's basically how I do it anyways. But we've messed up here, so we're going to have to count our stacks and things. But you never want to have too many stacks at the end, because you can't pop a healing like you can on a Warlock or something and tank all the damage. You can do a wall. Right, you can do a wall at the very best, but that's not going to protect you for 50 stacks. But obviously you do a bubble on that. For the very last deposit that you do, it should be only 10 stacks, or maybe 5 or 10, because you can't do a bubble until you're sort of ready for the damage. Okay, you don't want to be doing the bubble too soon either. When you kill the VIP target, the Marauder, he drops riches as well, but I barely bother picking them up. But if you want to pick them up, you can. So we've got our 10 stacks. We do our swap before we go to middle. That's so important you do that. Also, we've cleared out all the ads on that side. The right hand side, we cleared out all the ads. So we fight from the right hand side. We do a bubble. The bubble will block left and behind us. All the dregs that would stagger you, they won't. So this phase will be, you'll see this phase so much smoother. I'm literally hitting all my shots just about. And this is what a DPS phase should look like when you're using Saber. You can see the 133. That's bounce shot damage included on top. That's why it's so good to do DPS. So, as I said, that's what you do. Then once DPS is over, you need to obviously get out of middle as soon as possible, because there'll be a sniper again spawning up and the Marauder. You should still have your overshield though, to be fair, from Helm. So you should be able to get out in quick enough. You want to swap gear on the outskirts somewhere safe. Do a barricade and then swap, because you want Simpercepts back on for the safety aspect. And it's back to rinse and repeat. So same thing. The Scorch Cannon guy will always push you as well when you're at the back of the map, which is kind of good. It means you don't have to go chasing after him so much. This is what can slow the run quite a lot, is the fact, as I said, you'll have spammed up all your ammo from damage phase, which you need to do really, to be fair. But you're not going to have any ammo really to deal with the sniper, which the coordinate, it does okay damage to it, but You know, you can't push up too far because the boss is on that middle platform. So it's just a case of back to this strat again. Use your cannon, get your charged shots. Or I can even use my kinetic gel. The kinetic gel's okay, it's not too bad. It's got vorpal weapon, spike grenades, which stack together. And you can put a major spec in it. Or you could have, I could have used a blinding grenade launcher. I could have used ignition code. Just whatever suits you, really. It doesn't really matter. The main reason of having the GL on is honestly just to get more heavy. It doesn't play that much of a role, the GL. It's just so that I'm getting the, because I'm running double special, I'll get more heavy, I'll get more sleeper. So that's a win-win for me. I'd rather do that than run a primary, because my Symphoceps are my primary, not a weapon. I get all the kills from that, because that's the build. Obviously, if you run out of charge of light, then you need to go and farm that back up by your melee. I haven't got any of it. I haven't got taken charge on, or shield break charge, or none of that stuff. Just the melee well made, because that's all I needed for this build. That's all I needed for the dungeon, really, on this setup. Another Scorch Cannon here, which is good. Sniper's taken out, so now it's just the Marauder. We're close to super. At this moment, I would have been best dropping the cannon, go and farm some super off some of the ads, right? And then come back, which I'm going to do actually. Also, we need some more ammo. I would say, looking at the boss's HP, we would need... We could probably do it with 5 shots. It would be tight. Well, no, I suppose it wouldn't be so bad. But to be safe, I ended up getting another break. I got 10. Now, that's more than enough for his damage. He's only got like 20% HP left. So we're good on ammo. We only need one coordinate fusion shot. Literally at the start of the damage. We only do the one shot for the particle deconstruction. Be careful not to do it too soon as well. If you noticed on my first damage phase, I've done the shot too soon. When he's immune, even though he's immune, you can't stack the particle deconstruction early on the boss, which is unfortunate. That would have saved so much DPS if you could do that, but you can't. You can only proc the particle deconstruction once the shield goes down. Like, if you can see his HP, the best thing to do is look at the HP. It's locked. You can see there's a white border around the HP saying it's shielded. The boss is shielded. Once that shield goes off, that is the exact moment the shield is taken off. Don't look at his AI, because he can trip out and do certain things. Both bosses kind of do in this dungeon, which is kind of annoying. When the shield breaks, this boss isn't as bad as the Ogre. The Ogre can just wander. Right? He can wander, and you've actually done your job. You've done your 20 riches. He's still beaming down, falling. And his shield ain't going down, and you've popped a bubble, you're waiting for him, and he's just not unshielding, so it can be annoying. He can do it a little bit on this one as well, because he can teleport just before he needs to teleport at the back of the map. He might teleport on the middle platform, you DPS him from there. There's some randomness that can happen that way, but generally he will just go to the back of the map. I wouldn't DPS from the back of the map though, because you can't get the sleeper ricochet shot. If you're not using sleeper, then you don't need to do it from middle, do you? But if you follow the tips, like clearing out a side, so left side is full of ads but right side isn't, pop your bubble and then fight on the right side of the bubble, so the ads on the left are only hitting your bubble and not you, and the ads on the beach will never hit you because the bubble is giving that protection. So clear the side out that you were last on. That is the rule, and you won't get any PvE flinch, and it'll be easy for you to hit all your shots, because the boss himself isn't threatening. Whenever you're weak going to beach or any side, do a melee, get your overshield going, and if you haven't got a charge melee, just melee a couple ads, because you still get health regen. You won't get a shield, but you will get instant health. You'll know if the charge shot on the machine works if you get the 44,000 damage. Which again, to overclock it, has to be the max charge, so where it makes the audio cue twice. That's when you know it's fully charged. we're depositing our stacks here. Bubble, of course, as always. My ammo's perfect. I'm going to get my server back as well from the riches on the next 10 stack. So now we just need to establish which side it is. Obviously the fallen machine rotates left and right. The beach is open as well for you, because there's a unit on there. As I explained previously, I don't use that side. I just don't bother with it. I just use left or right. I rotate between the two, because those are the sides that are going to give you flinch. The beach isn't going to give you flinch because the bubble's got that protection, but left and right it hasn't. But if you can at least get one side down, the last side you were on, then they won't aggro you with ads, because there's no ads up. So as you can see, I've left one ad alive purposely, because before I get my 10 riches, I'll melee him, swap my gear. I'll keep hold of the cannon as well, so that the vandal doesn't spawn back up. That's another important aspect to it, so you don't get any more interference of scorch cannons. Do a swap, keep the cannon held, and then server in middle. That will then ensure that no ads bother you if you do it. If you do it like that every time, it's so easy that way. We're waiting for the shield to go off. We get our fusion rifle shot first, max stacks. And it's literally at this point just finishing him off with Slaver, which is an easy free phase on this fight, especially with weapons of light. Anyways, that was the solo flawless on this dungeon for the Titan. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.